From the Fox 10 Gulf Stream, this is Next Weather.
Well, hey there, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith with meteorologist Nicholas Herboso. We're going back a little over 30 years, taking a look back at a crazy snowstorm in March that affected Mobile and Pensacola, Baldwin counties with some snow.
Yeah, and not just that, really the entire eastern United States. It's a superstorm of 1993, and it was a heck of a storm to look at. So I have it pulled up here on the satellite, so let's take a look at it. This is the long satellite loop. I mean, this is impressive, guys, and it's going to reverse and then go back there. This was a true bomb cyclone in March. It did everything from a massive squall line with multiple tornadoes in Florida to what we had, thunder snow in Mobile, that's right? Yeah.
We definitely had thunder snow in North Georgia. I experienced
yes.
it. And this thing, there was cold air on the back side of it. It was unreal how much cold air was punched in here. We had temperatures in the low 20s and upper teens in our area behind this. And there was even storm surge ahead of it in places like Appalachia Bay, St. Mark, some of those areas over into the Big Bend area of Florida.
So in summary, a big old storm here. I'm gonna go into the weeds a little bit, so y'all bear with me. I love doing this stuff. So I've got the upper level chart from the 12th pulled up. This is March 12th, 1993. This is the morning of the 12th. And you can see there that big red line that I had. That was the big 500 millibar trough. That was the big upper level trough. That was the main driver that allowed for this thing to develop in the Gulf of Mexico. That was the main upper level support. And you see that small line I drew over Texas there. There was a little bit of a kicker, if you will. It was a smaller trough that kind of really helped to get this thing going. I know this is a lot of math.
It's the four panels.
Yeah, the four panels.
We used to use these all the time back in the day.
Yeah, so I'm pulling out some of the old stuff. But I'm zooming into the 1,500 millibar thickness chart. Those green lines you see. You can see kind of over the deep south, there's a whole bunch of green lines that are really close together. Think of that as the temperature gradient. Jason mentioned this. There was a significant temperature gradient between the southern half of this storm and the northern half of this storm. So let's look at the surface chart now. There's that low pressure, and the observations in Florida way different than the observations in, say, North Alabama. Already we were getting that temperature difference going. And a good thing to remember for us in Mobile, this low pressure system went to our south. Typically when stuff goes to our south, we get that colder air on that side.
Yeah, we almost never get snow in Mobile and Pensacola in our Gulf Coast area. But if we do, it's from a low pressure area in the Gulf to our south.
Exactly, and that's what pushes it through. And getting back to the naps, and take a look what else we have. I've got my four panel up again. Look at the temperature difference now. This is just a few hours later, about 6 hours later. Look at how thick those lines are right next to each other. I mean, that's where that low pressure system is, just kind of in the Big Bend of Florida. That is a strong low pressure system.
And the red line you can see behind the L, that's the rain snow line.
Yeah, that's the 540 line is what we call it. And that is, it's right over us. And then, of course, at that point, we were receiving snow. In fact, I'm going to have to look closely at this one. This is the chart, a valid March 13th at 6Z. Overnight, temperature at Mobile Regional Airport was 33 degrees. And that is moderate snow being reported there. And places like Birmingham did get thunder snow. So yeah, it was there it is. It was a really cool thing. Crazy snowing all the way down to the Gulf Coast, all the way down to, I'm pretty sure the beaches got snow.
Yes, not much of an accumulation as you get into the further south part of Mobile County, but the azaleas were literally blooming just like they are right now. And then all that snow dumped right on top of it.
Yeah. So, and keeping on here, just get this through the rest of this. There's the rest of the surface charts as we push this through. And you can see that low pressure system gets stronger and stronger as it moves up to the north and east, dumping snow and lots of it in the Appalachians and points south all the way to the Gulf Coast. And then the lowest pressure around 960 for this thing. So a really strong surface low. So that's a low pressure that we would see like with a hurricane.
Like a Cat 2 or 3 hurricane, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
so
a good one.
A significant hurricane, and there's beyond that there was significant wind as well. And as this thing kind of got out of there, this is that upper level chart again. You notice how that's curved differently. We call that a negatively tilted trough, and I mean that's just perfect. If you want a big snowstorm, you get a negatively tilted trough in the eastern half of the United States. That is guns blazing for a big snowstorm, and it was the perfect setup for it. You can see it kind of mellow out as we get to the 14th. But here they are. This is the interesting thing. This is the snow totals, and you can see all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We got at least a trace of snow, 3 inches in Mobile, and you can see in some of those mountains some higher totals. And Jason has an interesting story about that. You were driving in this, weren't you?
Well, yeah, so it was spring break, and I was a junior in high school, and a buddy of mine drove to the North Carolina coast and went striper fishing, catching striped bass in New Bern, North Carolina, and then we were on our way to Mobile. And we spent the night in Monroe, Georgia, which is just east of Atlanta, and we woke up, and it had just turned to snow. And we opened the front door and we watched lightning strike a pine tree in the front yard. We had thunder snow. We had an active lightning strike hit the pine tree in the front yard, and I told my buddy, I said, we really need to get on the road if we want to get ahead of this storm, which was a pretty foolish thing to do for a couple of teenagers, but we actually made it along that route. We traveled the North Perimeter Bypass, and the interior interstates in Atlanta were shut down, but 285 South remained open. We had about a foot of snow, heavy snow, just solid snow, and we were driving around the South Perimeter Bypass of Atlanta, and we drove and it snowed. We started getting into snow showers around LaGrange, Georgia, from there to Montgomery. And the way snow showers worked, if you've ever been skiing out west, you'll see, it'll be sunny, and you'll see a cloud, and then you get underneath that cloud and it's snowing like crazy, and then the cloud goes away and then the sun comes back out. So we're getting these cold air aloft, snow showers with the heating of the day, creating the instability, and it was amazing snow showers with snow on the ground all the way to Mobile. And you know, it's just a remarkable storm to experience. We didn't have any problems. I kind of spun out. I was driving around Montgomery and spun the car out on a little slick spot, but we were fine, no wreck, and just got going again. Just a crazy event that affected. I had some friends that went backpacking in the Smoky Mountains for that week of spring break, and they had to be evacuated by helicopter. Some of them had frostbite because of the intense cold. So it affected not just South Alabama, but North Georgia, Birmingham, Alabama, Tennessee Valley, and all the way up the East Coast.
Yeah, that's definitely an incredible story. And you said, so snow is all on the ground all the way down, right?
Right.
How long did that snow stick around?
Well, in Mobile, it melted pretty much the next day, but about 3 days later, when the cold air had gone away, we had still had some cold nights. I drove up to South Washington County, just above Citronelle, to go bass fishing, and there was still snow in the woods and drifts in the ditches because there was a much higher accumulation of snow in South Washington County, and that was 3 or 4 days after the event. I mean, we had temperatures in the mid-60s, there was still snow on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible stuff. So that's it, the Superstorm of 1993, and it was just a really, really incredible storm. And a lot of people call it was a generational storm. That was a once-in-a-generation thing. Give us 100 years, not going to happen again. Will it happen in my lifetime? I'd be really old at that point. But
one takeaway I had from it too, when we were at the onset of that trip, you know, even 5 to 7 days out, we were looking at long-range models, and long-range models can be inaccurate now, and they were highly inaccurate in 1993, but they pegged this thing. I mean, the prediction for a heavy snow event in the southeast was 5 to 7 days out because the synoptic features, the large-scale features, were so strong that the model said, "Hey, we've got a monster brewing," and they pegged it. It was accurate.
That's those charts that I was showing you. When they look that drastic, you can see all those features so easily. That's stuff when we're in school looking at it. You know, it's like, you are never going to see this in the real world because this is the extreme case where everything's just perfect. It reminds me kind of something in my lifetime, April 27th, where April 27th, 2011, a major tornado outbreak, generational tornado outbreak, kind of using the same term. Similar story where we saw that a long, long way out simply because we had such a drastic setup. So it's interesting whenever we have those really big events, how far out we can see them.
Yep, that's why we do what we do, and we just wanted to give you a little bit of my personal experiences with it. And now, on the flip side of it, you know, that was one of the big case studies that you had in college from that big event. So a lot of folks remember that. Not often you get snow. In fact, that's probably the only time we ever had measurable snow in Mobile in March. So.
Nice to see 3 inches in March. Wow.
Yep.
All right, so now you got to take a look at the 7-day forecast.
Let's look at that and see if there's any snow, because we do spring into spring next week, and we do expect a little colder air next week, but rain chances Friday and again Sunday, and then it gets colder as we head into early next week. Hey, thanks for catching us here on Next Weather.